Hello again, and this is going to be my discussion 3 video post. I'm going to be speaking about responsibility centers and analysis. A little bit about responsibility centers. Our book, Baker, shows that responsibility centers are also known as profit centers. This is where a manager is responsible for generating revenue and controlling costs. Responsibility centers will help to streamline the management structure and ensure implementation of the budgeting system and make sure that it gets put into practice. Aliona in 2016 refers to budgeting as the transformation of financial plans into monetary units. The Responsibility Center is an organizational center for which a manager is completely accountable to a department or organizational function whose performance is the direct responsibility of a specific manager. This side is for how these can work and some examples in the healthcare industry about that.
To keep our system affordable. To get there, we'll have to change our mindset to do more with less. And this is actually where we in the developed world can learn a lot from the countries in the developing world. Due to the resource constraints that they are facing, they have adopted this mindset for a long time. So how can we get there? There are many ways to get there, but I want to share 3 that I believe are vital in healthcare. The first one is about looking for alternatives. We should look for alternative products and solutions that are not only cheaper, but that are as safe and effective as the ones that we have. Take Dr. Wagnis. He's a surgeon who works for a hospital, an advanced teaching hospital in Pune, one of the largest cities in India. Many of his patients cannot afford their surgeries. So he's always looking for solutions to save costs, and even small cost savings with help. One of the instruments that he's using during surgery are scalp clips. Scalp clips keep skin flaps in place while operating, but they're hard to find in India and they're very expensive. So he's looking for an alternative that functions in the same way. He started using this. Binder clips. Sterilized, of course. They cost less than 1/10 than a scalp clip. And what's more is that he found that they were as safe and effective. This small change can save about 5% of an average cost of a surgery in India. Now, why is it?
So that's just an example of what people can do in order to cut costs and control the amount of money that they spend by creating solutions and being able to think outside the box. This breakdown analysis can look like is having a budget developed, making distinctions within costs. So for example, like in our book, there is direct and indirect costs, and how do you distinguish between one versus the other and what are kind of mixed, if you will. And then we can look a little bit at the break-even analysis as pictured here. The better question is why we do these breakdown analysis, and I have another little clip that will hopefully explain a little bit better as to why we should do so, focusing on planning and control.
Ideas of what I'm talking about. So in terms of planning, think about it like this. Budgets force people to think about the future. So people get so caught up in the day-to-day. They're thinking about the short term. They're thinking about this week, trying to get their job done, which is great. But we need to think, okay, what about 6 months from now? What about 1 year from now? We need to think about, okay, how are we going to acquire resources? How are we going to use those resources? What is our cash position going to be like 1 year from now? So putting together a budget is going to force you to actually put on paper and say, okay, what is it going to look like 12 months from now for our firm? And so we can go and come up with a plan of, well, how are we going to achieve?
Goes on to say that because it forces us to have future and forward-thinking thoughts, we can then use that to plan ahead, plan out our goals, plan out what we want to achieve so that we can measure these achievements if and when they do happen, and when it's time to report and as managers answer and be held accountable for what we have or have not done.
That would defeat the entire purpose. We want to actually go. Control is about actually going and saying, okay, did we achieve our goals? Are we actually going? And so let's say, for example, that one of our goals is we wanted to spend less money on raw materials, right? Some resource that we're thinking of. And we say, you know what, we've been spending too much money on it. So we can actually go and say, all right, here's our budget. Here's how we're going to spend less money on the raw materials this coming quarter. But then we can go after the fact and see, okay, did we spend too much money or not? Now it's
So in this way, control helps us to find issues that we've had with the budget or with spending or with resources or good things that we've had with those items as well. And it lets us make corrections for those and moving forward, repeat the same process. This is super beneficial because there's always something that you can make better. Even if you think a system is perfect, you can always push it to the next level or try to be innovative with your budgeting and controlling and using the breakdown analysis to make things better and be really accountable for your company, the organization you work for, as a manager. All right, and that is the end of my discussion. Thank you so much for listening. If you have questions, let me know.